Welcome, everybody, to Wealth is a Team Sport Live. If you're new to the show, I believe that one of the most valuable gifts that you can give yourself is peace of mind by learning from other people, thinking bigger thoughts. Life is hard enough, so we're going to get some pearls of wisdom from our special guest today, Don, and we're going to learn about what he does and how that may be a fit in your life. So just welcome to everybody. For those of you who are very brand new, I'm Tara Nolan, and I'm known as the advisor who helps you achieve and retain the lifestyle that you want. And, in my business, success starts with relationships. And trust is one of those key ingredients of any good relationship. And, you start building trust by sharing stories and knowledge. And that's how you start to build that relationship. And so this interview series is just a natural extension of what I like to do, because I like to get to know people and know what they're all about, and then see how that's going to be a fit. With financial planning, it's all about getting to know, those trusted advisors who are going to help you make those very personal decisions. So with this show, I'm just taking time out to interview really interesting people who are experts at what they do. And then at some point in the show, I'll ask them to share, a question about what I know now that I wish I would have known then, because we all have a story like that. So let me take a minute and just introduce Don to you so that you can kind of get an idea of what we're in for. So what I have for Don and for his background is he has served in leadership roles for more than 10 years. And as with any leader, it's the follower that chooses to allow him to lead or not. And it's for this reason that Don's learned to balance the expectations of those he serves. He serves his customers by providing exceptional service, while also serving his team by providing them with the resources and a healthy work environment necessary to succeed. So, Don, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So, I wanted to share with everybody our story of how we met. I think is pretty fun. So I also do a weekly radio show, and I was doing a particular episode talking about, things that you can do when you retire, because a lot of people retire, but then they're not ready to be done with life. And so they're looking for activities and how they can make a little money and do all that stuff. And one of the examples was event planning. And I get this call from this guy, and he's like, "This is Don. I do what you talked about." And I was like, "What?" So Don, if you'll share the rest of the story from your perspective, I love the story.
Sure. So yes, I was listening to you one Saturday morning, and you were talking about folks needing to do something beyond their the full-time gig that they had before. And I yelled out to the radio, "I do that." And of course, Monday I called you and left you a voicemail saying, yes, I can support your folks if they would like to hire on to Jamaroo Limited. With that in mind, I can give a brief intro. What we do event support for various venues here in town. Switchback Stadium, Air Force Academy, the Norris Penrose Event Center. We did a stint at the World Arena, and we also did concerts at Pikes Peak International Raceway. So we staff event support staff for ticket takers, parkers, and ushers at the various venues.
So that's great, Don. But so I kind of like to step back with my guests and go, how did you get into event planning?
Okay.
And kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. What did you do in your first career, and then what led you to event planning?
Sure. So I was an associate athletic director at the Air Force Academy. From there, quote unquote, retired. And then I went to work for a contractor that was doing the event support side. That's where I learned the managing of staff, because I was his deputy. And at that point in time, he did not get to renew his contract. And I said something to myself, if we're doing it on inside of the gate, who's doing it on the outside of the gate? And at that point, when I started, no one was doing event support consistently outside the gate. And that's what started Jamaroo Limited.
Now that's interesting. So do you have any real business experience? Because you had experience doing that role, but how did you learn to become a business owner?
Early on, I dabbled in various entities here in town. I used to own Pizza Factory and Fountain. Um, I owned a landscaping company, so I developed the skills overall from my previous exposures in other business. And of course, I had the military background training all the way to the nth degree of
Mhm.
understanding systems, people, um, and controlling assets.
So I love that you brought that up with the Air Force background because we obviously have that in common about learning how systems work. Because that was for me when I started my business in financial planning. It was understanding systems, and finance is just another system that you have to learn. And there's all the different parts that make it work, and then you
Mhm.
figure out what the outcome is going to be. So it's kind of like a way of thinking that you get trained to do. So that's pretty interesting.
Correct. Absolutely.
And
And
so
it's
you
and you apply it to the environment or the opportunity at that point in time.
right. So you're like a serial entrepreneur then. That's
Correct.
pretty cool.
You could call it that.
I love that. So, one of the things that's really important for me in my business, and I think probably for you as well, is the ethics behind, how you deal with people and how you treat with people. And I love like some of the basic ones we learned in the Air Force of integrity first, it's service before self, and excellence in all we do. Y- what kind of values do you have in addition to those that are important to you or for how you take care of people?
Mm. So, service before self. Having that role as an AD, you've got a ton of moving parts. And you invest in your people to pull it off. And I think
Mhm.
that's the idea of service before self. Getting them the knowledge pieces that they're able to make that particular task happen and or the season happen.
That's really interesting. And then how do you take those skills that you learned when you're dealing with your event planning staff, the people that sign up to do that?
Um, so it's more of a dependability wicket. Knowing that when you signed up, you're signing up to be there on time, be at the event location on that day. Um, in essence, folks that are hired on understand it's a timely scenario, and it's, of course, dependability to be there the day you said you were going to be there
Mhm.
on time.
Right. That's a lot, and that's interesting. So how do you navigate that when you have a new hire because you almost don't know if someone's not going to show up until they don't?
That is absolutely true. So in my business, ah, I would say for the most part, all of my staff came from the Air Force Academy and are doing this as an adjunct gig when they're not working the Air Force Academy.
Got it.
So the dependability box and the on time box is already checked. For a new hire, I have a conversation that says the day that you sign up is the day that you will get an email, you will get a text, and obviously that's the day you show up and the time you show up. So the initial encounter is to remind them what they signed up for, and then once they get on site, they'll receive some training on how they will handle themselves at the venue.
I love that you're reminding me of when I was teaching biology at the Air Force Academy. I went to a seminar workshop, and one of the big topics was, how do you get your students to show up on time? And I just had to laugh. I'm like, "Oh, I don't have that problem."
Right, you don't have that problem.
And and then they were like the other question was, "Well, what do they call you?" I'm like, "Well, ma'am."
Right, absolutely.
So it was really interesting. I'm like, "Oh, I can just get right to teaching because I don't have to worry about, the basics." So that's pretty fun.
Mhm.
Um, Kinda do you have a story to share about event planning, especially for someone who hasn't done it? Like, I would like you to share like one of your fun stories and then one of your like, "Oh boy." Here, that was a gotcha.
Okay. Um, so previously I ran the parking for football at the Air Force Academy. That's probably the biggest. Well, no, I would say that's one of the big ones. So you start
That's a
with
big deal.
yeah,
That's
it
a
is a big
whole
deal.
that's a project.
So the many pieces are traffic and control. So security police. There are other components which are the AD staff, the athletic staff.
Hmm.
And for the most part, you start to plan the route. You also get involved with CDOT because, in essence, you are going to jam up I 25. So you bring them in, and that's the initial start of the conversation. On this day, at this time, we will attract folks coming on the North Gate. And at some point in time when the game is done, we're pushing them back to I 25, be it south or north. So the planning starts with a conversation and understanding how the game will impact activity on the Air Force Academy.
Okay.
Um, the gotcha one was working for the Renaissance Festival.
Oh,
And it's a one lane street coming into Larkspur. And we had the duty to park all of those folks leaving I 25 amidst the construction that was going on at that gate. So the gotcha was CDOT was concerned, one, because of the traffic, two, because of the construction. And we were trying to move the I 25 traffic through the town of Larkspur politely
right.
and get them parked off of the street as soon as possible. That was a good show, if you will. CDOT understood, but CDOT was also concerned. And we handled it. I mean, it took a little longer because the construction wicket was the problem right there at the exit. But we
Hmm.
made it happen. Car by car came in and we parked them.
So, do you find that people tend to be on their best behavior? Because I mean, you're not a policeman, so how do you handle that when you have people that give you a hassle?
Well, you politely state at this point in time, you can see 5 cars ahead of you. You're not going to be able to pass because traffic is in front of you. The evidence is there, even though you are upset, but you can't get upset. You have to politely inform them of the visual in front of them. As you can see, you can't go any faster.
Right, right. So, so what's kind of like the ideal person to work with you?
Sure. Um, Jovial, outgoing, because you have a customer interaction. You're talking to clients that um, it maybe they're neophytes and have never been to a stadium like the Switchback Stadium,
Hmm.
and you're reaching out to ask them, do you know where you're sitting? And then also sharing this stadium is built this way. Here are the bathrooms. Here are the food concession areas. That kind of stuff. More of an informative kind of person, but an outgoing person. Two was standing up. So in essence, you got to be able to tolerate 4 hours of standing with a break in the middle of that. When we park, again, you're standing, you're moving around, and you are showing cars where to go. So it's not necessarily you are in someone's car, you are not. You are flagging them to a parking slot, basically. So the person has to be able to, I guess, go with the flow, um, and in essence, realize you are the first encounter for that customer when they come through the gate and or you are about to park them in a parking lot. And it's not that you don't know, you do know. You just have to control the environment and politely handle it.
So I really like how you describe that, because that's, you know, a lot of what I do with my business too, is it's expectation management and kind of leading people through, here's how this process is going to work, and letting people understand, like, here's how this is going to work. If this is a fit for you, it's great, and if it's not the right fit for you, that's okay too, but maybe this
Correct.
is not the right place for you.
Mm. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'm going to ask you my finance question of, something you can share about yourself or just somebody that you know, because you have experience with business and life. What's something you know now financially that you wish you would have known 20 years ago?
Something that I know now. I would say financially, the allocation of funds toward the future started, as in pay yourself 80%, take 20%, and put it in some sort of vehicle so that
Hmm.
that vehicle can produce more. I wish I was smart enough to understand, um, increase that number. So what I'm about to say is 20% was nice, but you blew the 80%. So you could have saved a little bit more of that 80% and made an investment of 25%. But life was happening at that point too.
Right.
But when you look back, you're going, was it really necessary to buy the Porsche? No, but it was nice. So maybe investing more at a younger age and not looking at it as, oh gosh, I don't have enough money. That would have been better.
I think that's a great piece of advice, and I really like to try to get people to think about it like in terms of percentages, because like 10%, that's a dime out of a dollar.
Right.
And and if you put it into terms like that, where you manage it, and I try to tell people, because when you're younger, it is hard because you're
Mm,
usually starting a family, you're paying
correct.
for car loans, all that, home loans, but it's like a habit. It's like working out and going to the gym. You want to start the habit early. It doesn't have to
Mhm.
be, it can't be too much. It's got to be something doable, but it's a good habit pattern to get started. And I that's a great piece of advice to share. And it's always the challenge, right? Because the people that need to hear it aren't ready to get advice yet.
That's true too.
But there's got to be that balance though too, because you do get to live your life, right? You can't just
Hmm.
live your whole life in austerity. So, but that's one of the things I really liked with the event planning option, and what you do is, because it's people who have retired, but it's, you get to have the social activity, you get to be involved with the team, you get to make a little bit of money, and so there's a lot of good things that go along with the event planning. It's because it's not like you just get a job that you hate.
Correct. And you get to see the event. I mean, if you enjoy soccer, that's great. If you enjoy football, that's great. Concerts, there's a plus and a minus depending who the act is, of
Right?
course. Uh, but you get to be part of the entertainment, and you're working at the entertainment.
Okay, so you didn't bring that up before, so that's super exciting. So after they've done the shift and get everyone organized, then they get to actually watch the show for free.
Right. Well, most oftentimes the shift. Okay, let's look at the shift for a soccer game. It's about 4 hours.
Okay.
So uh, start maybe 2.5 hours before the game starts,
Mhm.
and then the game is about 2 hours, so 7 to 9 p.m. for instance.
Mhm.
And in addition to watching the game between 7 and 9 p.m., at the end at switchback stadiums, we do fireworks. So that's another entertainment piece. So you saw the soccer game, you got engaged with our team. Notice I said our team. um, and then that way you get to enjoy the fireworks and then you go home. And if it's a concert, then that's probably a 9 hour day, and you're watching the act while
Mhm.
performing crowd control.
So that sounds like that's a really cool option. So
Yep.
they get paid a little bit, you get a little bit of out time, and then you get to get the entertainment. So that's kind of a lot of good worlds
Yes,
to get involved
absolutely.
with. So Don, if someone is interested to connect with you and get a little bit more information, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
So there's two ways. You can reach me via phone, 719-357-7595, or via email at jamarultd@gmail.com. So that is JAMARULTD@gmail.com.
So that's great. So for you guys that are listening to the show, especially for those of you that might be in retirement or getting close to retirement, I would recommend that you give Don a call and explore this option because it's kind of a cool thing. We talk about, you work your whole life and then retirement it's like another one of those turning points where you get to go, what am I going to be when I grow up?
Hmm.
And so this is kind of one of those things where you get to mix work and play.
Correct. Absolutely.
And so I would definitely encourage people to reach out, give Don a call because Don will kind of so someone gives you a call. What's that experience going to be like? Say they pick up the phone and say, "Hi, Don, I'm interested."
Sure. What'll happen is I'll get an email address. So they enter through a portal that takes their first name, last name, phone, and email.
Mm-hmm.
Then in turn, via the email, I'll send you the documentation, the federal, the state, and an application. And once that's complete, we have a short interview and then the emails for signups. So let me clarify that a little better. So each event is sent to you via email, and
Mm-hmm.
then you in turn could sign up via a link for that specific date for that specific time. So it's very flexible. So, for instance, Switchback Stadium, which I'm the exclusive provider for that, there are 2 games a month, and then approximately 2 games ago. And then there are other venues that I staff, but that email comes to you in your box, and you choose to sign up for that date and time.
Okay, so there's also flexibility built in. So it's not like people
Correct.
have to do every single show. They can sign up and have the schedule. And so yeah, this sounds like one of those awesome things that we talk about, that after you've done your work and you've built your nest egg and now you're in retirement and looking for your next kind of gig, this has got some flexibility and you get some entertainment and you get to do a lot of cool stuff. So Don, one more time, share that phone number and email so people know how to get a hold of you.
I am not hearing you.
Okay. I think it's running across the bottom of the screen. So for those folks that are interested in contacting Don, you can just reach out and either email him or give him a call. And
My
I think
sound went out. Can you hear me?
yeah, I'm good. I can hear you,
I cannot hear
but
you.
so we can hear you. But I think we're going to wrap up the show right now because that's awesome. So Don has shared with us what event planning is all about and why that's a cool thing to consider for retirement planning. And you can reach out and connect with him because it's just it's like one of these experts where, so Don had his Air Force career and then he did event planning and he's been a landscaper. So he's done a lot of pretty cool things. So glad to share this with you because I think it's one of those fun options that's out there. So I look forward to hearing about your success and what your ideas are, or if you have any other great ideas to share, like what to do in retirement. And please share that in the comments and let people know what's available and what's out there. So thanks for showing up, and I look forward to sharing an awesome topic with you next time.
Thank you.